My project was created in order to meet the requests of a childcare centre who felt that they were not offering sufficient and diverse cultural inclusivity. I met with 2 key service staff on several occasions to discuss the core needs to be addressed. From these discussions, I built a needs profile. The director and I discussed the service philosophy and what the service felt required additional reflection, inspiration, and forward movement. This approach ensured that we shared a common goal and were working towards shared values. Sullivan discusses shared values as being the means for a group to reach goals, and to meet these goals, leaders should possess values including empathy, understanding, and acceptance. I met with another core staff person on 2 occasions, once to discuss the expectations of my resource and another to discuss current methods and to take photos of existing resources and environmental evidence of cultural diversity in programming at the service. Finally, I ventured into each room to meet all the staff to introduce myself, explain the reason for my presence and the topic and purpose of my resource. I disseminated a 2-page questionnaire to each staff member, which included questions about the service's vision, goals and philosophy, thereby drawing on the course content related to effective leadership in relation to vision and goals by attuning to the information Sullivan suggests for effective leadership. This journey took me along a path where I took inspiration from the course materials wherever possible and embedded them in the project resource by including sections on networking, emotional intelligence and mentoring. The issues I faced revolved around ethics and time. The centre had a multitude of things happening, a variety of students already engaged in practicums, and a very busy director involved with the quality improvement process and the Big Steps program. One of my issues was sensitively pursuing the director's time without encroaching on her while still being able to meet my deadline. This element therefore immediately involved drawing on some of the emotional intelligence literature, and I needed to pare down my initial ideas and involvement with the director as it was clear it was not going to be a possibility with the time constraints. Hence I sought the assistance of the second key person who catalysed the project. Collecting inspirational data for peers with many years' experience both collectively and individually was an enormous challenge. They have seen and heard it all. Whilst all staff concurred it was a necessity to examine the centre's diversity programming, it was something I needed to be sensitive about and approach ethically. The Early Childhood Australia Code of Ethics focuses on collaboration, trust, and respect in interactions with colleagues, and the building and sharing of knowledge and experience, all in a reflective environment seeking to forge and inspire quality practice. To bulldoze the staff team and aim to overhaul their methods or trivialise their efforts and practices would have therefore been unethical. I could have created a resource with reams of printed resources, but that would have been a very cookie-cutter approach and based predominantly on my beliefs about culturally diverse programming. The question was how to lead sensitively and with emotional intelligence without imposing my beliefs or seeming superior, especially as I have come in as a student presenter and have an experience base with older children in a setting other than a childcare centre. I needed to examine the content of the folder as well as how to deliver it. I refined the process until I decided to present my findings in an informal but pre-constructed staff meeting and provided the centre with a folder which contained a few printed items such as photos and literature. Additionally, I collated all the data I'd researched, and after segregating the information, I created folders pertinent to each area of cultural programming in an 8GB USB. As touched on previously, my aim was to inspire, not impose. My intention was to garner the staff team's thoughts and inspirations and add to their pool of expertise by drawing on their own reflections rather than my resource and research necessarily. Whilst I utilised all 5 components of emotional intelligence throughout my interactions, 3 emotional intelligence components from Goleman's literature dominated the construction and delivery of my resource and workshop. Firstly, empathy, because I needed to consider the feelings of the staff and develop an understanding of my own actions in their workplace. Self-regulation during the workshop, such as controlling my impulse to rush in excitedly and speak before giving another person the opportunity to conclude their input. And the social skills involved in managing the relationships with all the staff from start to finish. The opportunities for mentoring with my mode of delivery were minimal. Therefore, I utilised the course material about mentoring to suggest to the staff to cross-reference with their peers for guidance. My aim was for the staff to mentor each other across the rooms and not to stay insular in mentoring only within their own section, such as toddler staff mentoring only toddler staff, but drawing and adapting on one another's skills globally. The challenge faced with the networking was to get a reply in time, which I unfortunately have not yet received. So this being a clear networking challenge, it would be wise to approach a number of potential networking sources in future. Networking was a consideration I put to the staff in the same way as mentoring, and I encouraged them to think within the service as well as whilst attending training and conferences, and to also create networks through utilising forums and blogs and contacting people via the internet in schools and services globally. The example I used was my own approach in seeking assistance through a cold canvas via email to an American-based Montessori school in order to gain a perspective from their practices directly for the purpose of adding to the material in my resource. Cultural programming aside, this project was about leading and managing change ethically and drawing on emotional competencies to inspire ongoing and collaborative outcomes. If I was to lead this project elsewhere and effect a shift in thinking, I think the most important initial step would be to develop a change vision and to acknowledge, as Paige has, that change becomes most difficult when people realise how difficult it will be. I spoke to the staff about empathising with the sentiment of it sometimes feeling like Groundhog Day. We struggle for new ideas and inspiration, and building our repertoire of expertise can be difficult when we seem to get stuck in the rut of routine. I feel for this reason a mentor couldn't help inspire and invigorate staff. The lecture on mentorship states that the qualities of a mentor are a challenger, a role model, an encourager, a trusted advisor, a teacher and coach, approachable, a receptive listener, a connector. The characteristics of the mentor assist in providing a role model who is not seen as authoritarian. Where some leaders do have a strong authoritarian aura and are judgmental, coercive, and aim to build their power base. My thoughts of mentorship are that a mentor is the parallel we aspire to, the equal who is neither above nor below, but a person who has the expertise and/or characteristics we wish to build in ourselves. It would therefore be useful to be able to build more mentorship opportunities in the project for future considerations.